students breathe down your neck. That is the block party.
Hudson finishes off Kentucky.
Purdue gets to celebrate. They take down number 3.
And the Boilers have done it. They advance to the Sweet 16 for the 5th time.
Welcome back to the Dig City Podcast, brought to you by Franciscan Health, the official medical provider of Purdue Athletics. I'm Corey Palm. He's head coach Dave Shondell, and he's got a lot to be happy about right now. But he's a head coach, so I'm sure there's some stuff to be crabby about too. Coach, a great weekend down in Dallas.
Well, thanks, Corey. It was a good trip. We knew we were going to play some good competition down there. Obviously, Houston in the first match, and then either SMU or Kentucky in the second. And it turned out to be Kentucky, as they won in, I think, 3 straight over SMU in the first round. And so we had the opportunity to play our good friend Craig Skinner and University of Kentucky, who's turned into quite a program, SEC dominant program. So, yeah, it was good. I felt like against Houston, we played really, really well. I mean, Houston's a team that's been consistently in the NCAA tournament the last few years, and I know at least one of the last 2 years they got to the Sweet 16, and they're well coached. But we beat them in 3. Thought it was probably one of our 2 best matches to date when we played them. And then we end up turning around and playing Kentucky in that would be the championship match of that tournament. Played very poorly in the first set, maybe trying to, do too much or had a little too much on our minds. But we were ball control was not good, hitting errors just not a good showing. But credit the players; they really regrouped after that and controlled every bit of the next 3 sets. I think 13. We were up 21-12 in the third, and then they came back and made it very interesting before we won that one. And then we were in the lead the whole time, 25, maybe 16 in the fourth set. So I felt like that was the first time all season that our team had been hitting on nearly every cylinder. Not all, but pretty close. And if we can do that, then we're going to be in pretty good shape against most teams we play.
That's kind of where I would imagine from a layperson's perspective, it's what you would like to see at this point, I would think, is, okay, it's September, we don't need to be playing our best, but we are progressively getting a little bit better every time out.
Well, the things you emphasize in practice that particular week, you hope that you see that come to fruition to some extent. You hope that your big-time players are going to be good all the time, because if they're not, then you're susceptible, to not being at your best or being upset by somebody. So I think that's been a pretty good sign, though. That we, obviously, I don't think Raven Colvin's had a bad match yet. My, I guess, expectations from some of our players is really, really high. And at times I think that probably is imposing on them a little bit. But at the other hand, my experience tells me that makes them better. That constantly pushing them and driving them and putting them at a higher plateau than other people in the country is what I think gets them to that spot eventually. And so we'll continue to do that. We'll continue to, expect the most out of those players, while hopefully that example will be a big difference for everybody else.
Yeah. Complacency is definitely an evil at this level. If you get players who think they're doing good enough,
I wouldn't say anybody is being complacent. I just think that sometimes it's just a natural phenomenon that people think that they're maybe doing the most they can do, and they're really not. Okay. And so that's kind of that's what our job is, is to make sure that we're watching everything very, very closely, and that there are certain times where people need it to be poked and motivated and encouraged to do more. And there's a way to do that with every player. It's not the same with every single player. I hope the athletes understand that, is that how we handle Raven Colvin is different than how we might handle Lourdes Myers, and how we handle Chloe Chicoine might be different than how we handle Eva Hudson. It's just what is going to make them understand and respond to the best.
As a coach, I wanted to really drill down a little bit on the first set of each of those matches. Against Houston, like you said, came out really, really playing well, 25-12.
Yeah.
You know, when it's the first set of the first match of the weekend after a trip, you know, a short week, because you come out and you play really well.
Yeah.
The first set against Kentucky, you come out flat and you get handled pretty well. As a coach, how do you handle what do you say to your group after the first set that's going really well versus the first set that's really not going well?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a patented answer for that, but I would say that when we got off to the good start against Houston, we just told them, you know, you're doing a lot of good things out there. We need to continue to do these things, and you might mention a couple of things that we can improve on, yet just be very positive in that huddle with them. Talk about things that they might want to expect to see from Houston that they might do differently in this next set because that one didn't go so well for them. Constantly just trying to stay ahead with the game plan as much as possible. Ideally, you always want to be positive in the huddle. That's always the plan. It doesn't always work out that way. I would say with Kentucky in the first set that we lost, what I told them was, I said, this really wasn't about Kentucky. We dictated the whole set, and that was by not passing well, by not serving well, by not hitting, you know, with any kind of confidence or authority, defensively playing with no discipline. And so it really wasn't that we got outplayed by Kentucky. It's just that we didn't give ourselves a chance to be in the match, even though it was tied, I think, at 21 at one point in time. But yeah, we just really didn't give ourselves that opportunity. And I just said we just need to settle down and play our game and make a couple of adjustments here or there and move forward. So, you know, I've learned a while ago that there's only a rare occurrence that you can really go in and try to blow people up.
Yeah.
That's going to help, and you better pick the right person to do it with. We don't do a lot of that. It's more or less just trying to help people understand what we need to do differently or what we've been doing really well and keep doing it, and be prepared for what the opponent might be planning to do against us.
It's kind of counterintuitive to think that the best scenario there is we're not playing well and that's why we're losing. Because the other side of that coin is we're doing our best and we're losing. Like, there's not a lot you can do when you're the ones making the mistakes. You can correct those and things are going to change.
And we did. You know, to the tune, I think, of 25-13 in that second set. And it was just, you know, I thought we served well all weekend. The Houston coach made a comment to me after the match. He said, the ball just sounds different when you guys serve it. And I hadn't heard anybody tell me that before. You know, serving, as you know, has been a real point of emphasis for this team, and we have to put pressure on the opponent, which helps dictate what they can run offensively if you serve tough. And we did not serve hardly any short balls this weekend. We just went after people and tried to serve deep seams and try to find the right people to serve and maybe take some of their key hitters out of the offense a little bit by serving them deep or making them go to the floor somehow. But the serving worked out pretty well for us. And again, our blocking was good, as it has been. I think Raven Colvin is the leading blocker in the country right now for a 6'1" middle blocker is pretty impressive, but also getting a lot of help from players like Lourdes Myers, Lizzie Carr, both of our right side players, our setter, Taylor Anderson, and Kenna Woolard, the right side player, doing a great job. Eva's a good block, and actually, you know, Chloe's improving her positioning and her hand shaping to hold her own out there as well.
That's one of the reasons that you're one of the best blocking teams in the country. Is not just, it's not a one-person show out there.
Right.
It's a whole lot of effort. Congrats to Raven, Big Ten Defensive Player of the Week. That is 3 weeks and 3 Big Ten awards for this team. Spread it around a little bit. So that's awesome from Raven. I was going through some statistics, and you mentioned Taylor Anderson on the block. She's been very effective there. She's also climbing up the Team Diggs list. It really kind of, I don't know if she's getting picked out a little bit or if she's just being more involved. But her all-around game is very impressive.
Well, it's getting better for sure. Her setting, first of all, has been really good.
Right.
She's made a big jump in her ability to run our team and make good decisions and get the ball to the right people and understand what makes sense in our offense. You know, it's hard for freshmen to come into a college situation and have that all figured out, you know, without being spoon-fed that information. And we're not big on that. You know, we want players to figure things out on their own. That's kind of their responsibility to study and learn. But she is doing a great job of setting for this team. You know, I think she's got an incredibly high ceiling to what she can do because of her athletic ability. You know, she's 6'1", and she's probably touching 10'2", 10'3", which is pretty good for a setter in any league, international or college or whatever you want to talk about. She's playing a lot harder defensively. You know, she's trying. She's still a little bit of a work in progress over there, and a lot of it is just, you know, you can say we need more discipline, but until you have played enough, it's not that easy to be disciplined. It's like anything else in life, you know. And so she wants to be a good defensive player, and right now she's moving up the list a little bit, but we still that's still something we have to work with her and several players on, just to be more disciplined and to read and react and know how the game's played and what your job is in every situation, and not be getting ahead of yourself thinking that, well, I'm the setter, so I've got to be thinking about, you know, going to set the ball instead of being right here knowing that my first job's to play defense.
Yeah, to be able to, you know, sort of set that hierarchy and be able to, you know, affect the game in multiple ways is huge for just a sophomore. Up a spot in the national polls to number 6, and like I said, improved 8-0 on the weekend. We'll talk about some upcoming opponents in the second half of the show, but you know, I know the weekly ABC coach poll comes out right after your press conference every Monday afternoon, and we happened to be together yesterday when that ranking was announced. Is that something? I know rankings, we talk about this every year. They are what they are, but do you keep an eye on that at least a little bit to see where other teams are moving around to, what maybe the national pulse is?
Well, I have to keep an eye on the poll a little bit because I'm on the committee. 60 coaches are on that committee that vote every week, so it's kind of my job, my assignment to make sure I'm doing the best, and I do put a lot of time into it, more than I should, to be honest with you. But at the end of the day, it's more or less just for PR than anything else. As we both know, that the NCAA committee that determines who goes into the NCAA tournament, which is all we're really focused on, okay, doesn't pay any attention to what the coaches think and how they rank players. It's all about primarily the RPI and maybe your conference finish or something along those lines. So doesn't mean a whole lot, except I think for recruiting, for, you know, fan appreciation or the opposite of that, I guess. So I think it's important. I mean, I think, you know, volleyball is, as you know, it's becoming a huge sport in our country. So all those things become more and more important, you know, that rankings and whatever you can find on the news or social media, those things become more and more important as our world evolves.
Yeah. Like I said, we're going to preview this weekend ahead after the break. We're going to step aside real quick and be back to talk about a trip to the Sunflower State right after this.
The Dig City Podcast is brought to you by Franciscan Health, the official medical provider of Purdue Athletics. At Franciscan, we are inspiring health. Now back to the show.
Coach, you're off to Lawrence, Kansas this week, and you'll start things off Thursday night against the Jayhawks in their home gym. A couple top 10 matchups with Creighton and Kansas, both on the docket. First things first. Well, let's talk about that Kansas team. You kind of have gotten familiar with them in recent years. They're a program on the rise as well, and you've scheduled them quite a bit.
Well, we have a good relationship with their staff. Ray Bouchard is veteran head coach over there, and Billy Ebel is assistant there that we know very, very well. He's a Ball State guy, great guy, two great guys. The entire staff is terrific. So, you know, when we need to put a schedule together and you want to play somebody good that you feel like you can appreciate and enjoy the people, then their name certainly comes up. But no, basically two similar teams to a year ago. And a year ago, it went down to maybe 17-15, something like that. I don't know what the final was in that fifth set, but it went way beyond regulation, you might say. We earned every point that we could get over there. And so that Kansas team probably remembers that match every bit as much as we do. So we're going over there into a situation where they're going to be angry, and they're going to have a lot to play for. So how do we match that purpose in what we're doing? And you just can't walk onto the floor and think you're going to beat Kansas over there this year. That's just not going to be the mentality that will work in this match. They are one of the least error-prone teams in America. They make very few mistakes. Just as an example, their hitting numbers. You hardly ever see them making more than 10% errors in any position. And they're just very skilled, very controlled, very experienced. I really like their team. I mean, if you're a Kansas fan, you've got to be in hog heaven because it's a really, really good team to watch. And that's not a take on the barbecue they have over there either with the hog heaven. But I like them. Their setter is a senior. They start 5 seniors.
Okay.
5 seniors are on their roster. And the only underclassman in their 6 front row players is a 6'4" middle from Utah that looks like she's more than a freshman when she plays. And then they have a sophomore libero from right here in Lafayette, who's a really good player that we're all pretty familiar with. And she's good. She's really, really good. We tried to test her out last year a little bit when we played them, and she rose to the occasion. So I have a lot of respect for Reagan Burns, for sure, from McCutcheon High School. But no, it will be a great match. We're going to have to play extremely well to win that first match over there. You know, they're ranked 9th or 10th in the country. You have that number, I'm sure, right in front of you.
They're 10, Creighton is 9.
And I think they're better than that. Everybody that you're getting ready to play always looks better. Don't get me wrong. But I don't know where you can find an issue with them right now. Offensively, they're extremely good. They're well balanced. They're capable in every position. They pass the ball well. They've got this great setter. Now, they're not huge. They're not a huge team. Okay, they got the one big middle, and everyone else is, just average in height. So you hopefully that your offensive players are going to look at that and think they got a chance, to score against them. But it will take a tremendous match, like it did last year, to go into Kansas and win that match against the Jayhawks.
I think probably the biggest knock on them is that it is their schedule. It's something that's mostly out of their control. They played one ranked team. They beat Marquette in 4. But they've been playing, solid teams and rolling them. They've got 2 sets all year.
Well, the fact they're rolling them doesn't mean those teams aren't good.
Right.
Okay, keep that in mind. Western Michigan is a great team from the MAC Conference that went to the second round of the NCAA tournament. They beat them 3-0. Okay, I think they beat Marquette 3-0 too when they played them 3-1.
Yeah.
They beat South Carolina, who's beaten some good teams this year, and I think that was 3-0 early in the season. So, I mean, I'm pretty good at looking at what teams have done, and even though, there's not a lot of top 10 ranked teams on their docket, just like ours, okay, they've handled everybody really, really well, and their numbers are off the chart. And so, we know we're going to have to do some things to disrupt what they like to do, and how we do that is still part of the formula we're trying to put together.
Definitely. I know the game plan is still being formulated now. Just generally speaking, when you've got a very efficient attack that you're going against, does that put even more emphasis on altering what they do with a really good block or maybe running a few extra bodies at them to try and get them out of rhythm?
I think it means a lot of things, but mostly it just means you have to be patient and mature in how you play against this team, because they're not going to give you anything. And most teams you play, even the best teams in the country, the very best teams in the country, will give you some points. And this is a team that's just not going to do that. And so you have to be prepared to get into rallies and stay disciplined and stay controlled and stay focused and continue to do the things that you have to do and not lose your mind and not panic in those rallies. It's just to know that this is going to happen. This is going to be great volleyball, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And the team that wins a lot of those rallies, but you're going to have to earn them as opposed to just outlasting them.
Yeah.
You're still going to have to find a way, in my opinion, to earn those, but with some big arms, with some great plays to score points against them. But it's an Elite Eight match, in my opinion. It's that kind of a match.
Yeah. And you've got that on Thursday. You've got another one on Friday with the Creighton Blue Jays, who come in at 7-2. Their 2 losses are 5-set nail biters to Nebraska and Louisville. So
On the road.
Both of those,
Right.
and top 5, both of those. This is a really good Creighton team that you saw last year here in Holloway Gym.
Yeah, best Creighton team that their coach Booth has ever had, in my opinion. I think they're really good. They picked up some help on the transfer wire to make them more physical. Their 2 left sides are back, and they've got 2 of the best arms in the country. Middle transfer from Kentucky really helps them. Getzinger is about 6'4", fifth-year kid that started, I think 3 or 4 years at Kentucky. Their other middle is very solid, especially defensively. The right side player is good. They've got a setter that is a tremendous athlete. I think she won like 3 or 4 events in the state track meet. Okay, so that tells you what kind of an athlete that she is, and the libero play is solid. She's a transfer from Penn State that really gave them a little something of what they needed. So no, they're a more physical team than Kansas, and you look at what they've done, and they went into Nebraska and about beat them at Nebraska, and then they go to Louisville and about beat Louisville, go right down in late into the 5th set. So them being at 9th I had them in my poll that I put as one of the 60 contributors, had them much higher than that. Okay, because I'm looking at scores and I'm watching them play, and I know, who their hitters are, and they're just a really, really good team.
It's going to be a fun match. The interesting thing about these tournaments is whoever's hosting these events gets to set the schedule, and Creighton caught a bit of a break. They're coming in. They don't have a Thursday match, so they're coming in with their entire week of prep, focused on their Purdue match. You've got to take care of Kansas first, while keeping an eye on that second matchup. Does that affect prep at all, knowing that you've got back-to-back top 10 opponents on the docket?
Well, clearly it affects your prep. I mean, we're not talking about Creighton. We won't talk about Creighton until after we play Kansas. But that's just the way it is. Yeah. And you watch college basketball, and there's all kinds of skewed scheduling. You don't control it, and it's just the way it is. And so we're going to go ahead and play.
There you go.
Yeah.
Match 3 on the weekend is the Golden Hurricanes of Tulsa, who are no slouch themselves. They come in with a nice record.
8-2. Only losses are to, I think, Baylor and Oklahoma. And they've got a big win over, you may find it for me, they definitely upset somebody. That was a top 10 team, maybe Arkansas.
They beat Arkansas in 5.
Yeah, so, and I don't think when the schedule was put together that we were anticipating seeing an 8-2 team that had the ability to beat, a top 25 team like Arkansas, and they played those other teams really, really close. So, the whole thing got a little more interesting. We knew the schedule when we put it together this year. The non-con was a little bit stronger than I would have liked, as far as not stressing out every minute of the day. But going into this week, this has gotten about as tough as we could have imagined it to be, which is great for us. And again, when you're playing great teams, at the end of the day, you're playing to win, and you need to win, okay? But a loss to one of these teams doesn't cut your throat.
Right.
Okay.
The season's not over. We're going to play again tomorrow. Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily make a huge negative impact on an RPI, but you can't get beat by a couple of them. You got to go over. I mean, the idea is go over there. We're the 6th-ranked team. There's a 9th-ranked team and a 10th-ranked team. So somebody out there feels like we're every bit as good as those teams are. Right. So maybe even better. But we have to prove it. And but I think you can throw 3 of those teams into a jar and shake them up, and they can come out a different way about every week. So it just depends how it's going to come out this week.
That's true. This is the last of your 3 straight road weekends. You return home finally to play on Beeland Court next week with Big Ten play. It's also the end of non-conference schedule this weekend. We talked a little bit yesterday after your press conference about sort of the schedule incrementally getting better and more challenging, and maybe that's the right formula for this particular team that you have, that you want to throw a little bit more at them. Okay, throw a little bit more at them. Okay, now it's as good as it gets. Have you gotten the growth that you were hoping out of the non-conference?
Yeah, I have no issues with our team and how they're working and how they're developing. But there are other teams that are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of great coaching staffs, a lot of talented teams, and you know, we just have to find a way to do more than what other people are doing. You know, especially when we step on the floor on match night, how are we going to be totally engaged and locked in and be mentally prepared and know the game plan and make adjustments once the match goes on. Because when I look at it, there's a top 25 of really good teams, and there was a day we were just happy to be in that top 25, and then we wanted to make sure we stayed in the top 15 and then the top 10. And now you look at that and you see there's some teams that you feel like, I look at the top of this thing right now, Pitt and Stanford. I think those two teams, in my opinion, look like they're better than everybody else right now. Right now, they look like they've shown that right now they've got a little more than everybody else. And then you get Nebraska, and I know Penn State's in that mix, and then there's a number. I would put Wisconsin and Louisville. Yeah. So all those people, and yet we're also in that mix, okay? And I think we belong there. But it's weekends like this where you find out, or you learn a lot.
True.
Either way, we're going to learn a lot no matter what happens, because we're going to be tested. And so we're going to have to go out and make adjustments and really play hard and lean on each other to find a way to compete against these teams.
Just I found this note the other day in Rachel Coe's notes that you guys, the last time you weren't in the top 25 rankings, Ronnie McAleer was in 6th grade. It's been a while, but I know, like you said, there was a time where you were happy to be amongst the top 25, and then you're happy to be included in the top 15, and it's just getting to that next level, and that's always the goal, and it seems to be progressing. Yeah,
well, we hope so. I feel like our program appears to be peaking. I mean, I don't think we're going the other direction.
Right.
I feel like this program has been really, really good for a long time. We've been fortunate to get great people, great physical athletes, tough customers to come in here and play, and that's what you have to stay alive in the Big Ten. You just have to. And now there's just a little something more special about this team, maybe, than some of the others we've had. We're going to find out. But that's the mentality I have, is that I absolutely believe in this group, but we have to do it every day. And there are areas that we know we have to get better on, and you focus on those, and then all of a sudden then you realize, okay, we're doing okay there, we got to focus on something else, and then something slides, and that's their job, to make sure that doesn't slide. They've got to keep working on that and keep believing in what they're doing. So, but yeah, I mean, we have a chance to have a great season, and every weekend it's important, but every weekend's not the end all.
Yeah. One last question. We're going to get away from the court a little bit here. I know you like wherever you're at to get away from things a little bit. Maybe put on some music or an iPod, a podcast, and go for walks.
Yeah.
Is there something, second year in a row now going to Lawrence, Kansas? Is there anything you're looking forward to seeing in Lawrence, maybe, that or doing while you're out there?
Well, I like Lawrence, Kansas. Okay, I mean, I don't know that there's anything remarkable about that campus or town than there is most of them.
Okay.
You have a lot less time to do those things than you think,
Yeah.
especially with the level of teams we're playing and the amount of time we're going to be looking at our screens to evaluate and prepare. But always looking for, if you're going to go to Lawrence, Kansas, you should expect to have some kind of a barbecue meal while you're there, and I hope that Carrie Gurnell, our operations person, has that lined up. But sometimes, and we, like our first road trip, we never left the hotel. We ate every meal in the hotel. And because there was 3 matches, bam, 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 bam. I don't know where we were. Where were we the first weekend?
Where were you the first weekend? That was Utah? Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Utah
So it's a beautiful place, and yet we really never get a chance to really experience that the way that I think a team should if they're going to be traveling to those kind of places. So last weekend I said let's get out. Okay, we're only playing 2 matches, so we got a little more flexibility. And so we did. We went down to a place that had a kind of a smorgasbord of barbecue, if you will, and
In Texas, you got it.
in a really neat area of Dallas, Texas. And so at least that kind of appeased me to some extent. But you get into this field of teams with the schedule. I mean, we play, I think, like approximately 7 o'clock on Thursday, 4:30 on Friday, and like 12:30 or something on Saturday. So the amount of time you have to prepare gets less and less to play really good teams. And so, you're not going to be running around checking out the town a whole lot. You're going to be doing your very best to have your team prepared. And a lot of that's already being done.
Yeah,
I mean,
true.
we got a crew, and we're looking at all those teams already. And we probably are pretty well through preparing with, on paper, with Kansas. We're probably halfway, 2/3 on Creighton. And then we get that, then we'll go to Tulsa, because that's the order that we play them in. Yeah.
Well, good luck out in Lawrence. Good luck out there, and we'll get back to
What do you think we need to do to ensure that we get Mackey Arena packed for those 2 matches in?
I keep hearing that it's awful close, but there's still some tickets available.
Well, yeah, I know, and I don't know if there's been any real marketing done yet. I know that there is going to be some, but I think once we start putting something out there, I think that will help. And again, the concern, as we talked about before, some people thought, well, all that's open is the upper bowl. Yeah, that's all that's open for most men's basketball games too, but they're full, and people are having a heck of a time while they're in there watching it. So I don't think there's a bad seat in the confines of Mackey Arena, and I know that once the word gets out that this is getting closer and closer, that I think that we'll get it packed, because it's going to be really disappointing if there's an empty seat in that building.
I agree. It's a special occasion that people have a real chance to be part of something important. And what I'd hate to see is folks waiting. Oh, well, there's going to be tickets available. There might not be.
Yeah.
The earlier you get,
Yeah, I can't imagine.
The only way to guarantee.
I'd hate to think on game day there's going to be tickets.
No.
I want to get the thing sold out before then. I saw Stanford broke their record for attendance last night, or a couple nights ago, with about 6,500.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, let's see if we can't at least double that, which we would do if we get our 14,800 into Mackey Arena. So we just really need our fans to you don't have to be a purebred volleyball fan, to do that. You just got to be a Purdue fan that wants to come out and support a really good cause.
It's gonna be a special night. You want to be a part of it. Coach, we'll leave it there. Good
Okay,
luck this
thanks,
week.
Corey. Appreciate it. Boiler up.